Hello, everyone, and welcome to Super Podcast Action Committee, episode 170, the last Super Podcast Action Committee of 2015. Yes, we are going on break for the holidays next weekend, so we will be back at you with new episodes in January. January 2nd, I think, is a Saturday, so we'll be back
Yeah.
then. With me is Zachary Knight. Hello, Zachary.
Hello, Andrew. How are you doing?
Doing all right. Just trying to get prepared for trying to get prepared for my mom and her husband who are coming to visit for Christmas, and they'll be here Monday. So,
Is your couch big enough?
well, I don't know if mom's gonna. Tim's definitely gonna. Her husband's definitely gonna stay in a hotel. I
Okay.
don't know if mom's gonna sleep over here. If she'll stay in the hotel.
Hotel with
I
them.
don't know. Yeah, Matthew's
Okay.
been complaining that ABC's streaming player is garbage. Um, I would not be surprised. I find it kind of funny, and I come across this a lot. I'll see sites, even big ones like IGN, and I freelance for IGN, so no disrespect, but just use YouTube. If your player is absolute garbage, please stop using it. To be fair, IGN's player is much better than it used to be, but
Yeah.
it's just the one that comes up off the top of my head. Who is just the absolute worst? I'm trying to think. But yeah, I do, Matthew. I do see that a lot with websites,
Yeah.
big ones. They'll use their own custom player, and it sucks. As in, it
Well,
doesn't work.
yeah. Television studios are the worst for that because they want complete control over everything, and so they use the worst players they can find because that's what they have either developed in house or what satisfied the lowest bid of the contract they sought out for it, and yeah, they're terrible. Hulu's pretty bad a lot of the times, but the thing that bugs me with Hulu is that it doesn't auto resize if you change the size of your window, your viewing
Hmm.
window. You have to actually pop the player out of the window so that you can resize the stupid thing. Netflix automatically resizes to whatever fits the browser window that you have it open in. So, yeah,
Well, at least Hulu. Matthew
and
says at least
YouTube does.
Hulu works
Yeah, and YouTube does the same thing.
sometimes.
If you shrink YouTube, it'll shrink the player along with it.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Uh, Hulu works. Well, the ads work. I've never had an ad not work. The show failing to load. Oh, that happens all the time, and then you have to watch all the ads again.
hmm
Uh, I've I've never really liked Hulu, but then
yeah.
again,
And then
I don't watch television, so.
if you have your ad block enabled on Hulu, it'll still let you watch the show, but the ad breaks where the ad breaks usually are, those are
Mhm.
like double to triple the length of what they would be if the ads are playing.
Yeah, and I don't think it has a little counter in the upper left where it says 130 seconds of ads, and so I'll alt tab away because I don't care about the ads.
Yeah.
And I'll come back, and a minute later, and only 10 seconds have passed. I'm like, wait a minute. But I've tried testing that a few times. It doesn't seem to be consistent, so I'm not sure if they're trying to make sure that you're watching the ads, or if it's just not very good at counting.
Yeah.
Don't know.
I don't know.
So, still playing Metal Gear Solid 5 because the game never ends. It just goes on and on and on. And one thing I've been pretty happy about is, compared to the rest of the Metal Gear Solid games I've played, with the exception of the prologue and like the first chapter, once you get past that, the game mostly just shuts up and lets you play. It doesn't bombard you with really long and crappy cutscenes. There are cutscenes, but they're
Yeah.
not horribly long. Until today, I one of the last the last mission or so of episode 1 or mission 1 or case 1, whatever it's called, first half of the game. This cutscene is 17 minutes long. The first 5 minutes
Wow.
You have to follow a guy while he chats at you very slowly for 5 minutes. So you and he walk to a Jeep for 5 minutes and he yammers at you the entire way. I
Now,
don't know why.
do you have to control your character
Yeah.
as you walk?
Yep. And
Oh, that is
if you don't do anything, he'll just stop and wait for you.
that is
I don't,
stupid.
you can just scan all the guys around you and see what their stats are, but that's it. I tried all the other buttons, doesn't do anything. So I don't know what that's for.
That's
Um,
the kind of thing that just should be a cutscene completely. I
yeah,
hate that kind of stuff.
there's no reason for that.
Yeah.
So then you get in the back of a Jeep, and then the bad guy talks to you for another 5 minutes, and then he's done talking, and you ride in the Jeep for another 2.5 minutes in dead silence. I'm not kidding you.
Even television shows and movies are wise enough to do a cut from
Hmm.
when whatever it is you're supposed to be paying attention to is over to when they arrive. It's like
What's
every show, every movie I watch will cut from as soon as the conversation's over to where they arrive at their destination.
What's funny is once he's done talking, they're just sitting in the back of the Jeep, just kind of uncomfortably staring at each other, and then a song plays, and it's one of the songs from the soundtrack, and it plays the entire song, so about 2.5 minutes. And I thought, okay, they're just killing time because they wanted in real time drive you all the way to the other location. But then once the song is finished, it just kind of fades out until you get there. And I'm like, well, then why did we not cut earlier? And then there's another 5 minutes of cutscene. So, but still, as Protoman pointed out in the chat, that's really nothing compared to some of the longer cutscenes from the earlier games. There's
Yeah.
one in 4 that he says is 40 minutes. I think there's one that's like near an hour. I know there's one in the first one that's about 20 minutes long. Um, but oh man,
Yeah.
let's see. The other thing I found is again, really love the game, but there are some really weird design decisions. Mother base, your home base, is this incredibly large, and by incredibly large, you're not even getting a sense of how incredibly large this place is. It is humongous. Not only is it humongous, but it's incredibly complicated. For example, I accidentally called my chopper to the wrong landing pad. I called it to the one up on top of a building. It took
Mhm.
me 5 minutes to figure out how to get up on top of the building. It should not take 5 minutes to figure out how to get up on top of a building. It's like, oh, that building, walk up the stairs. It's stupid
Yeah.
complicated. The problem with Mother Base is there's absolutely nothing to do there. It is this humongous, incredibly detailed, intricate area where you can't do anything except just kind of wander around and look at stuff. With a couple exceptions, there's the animal sanctuary where you can go and look at the animals you've rescued. There is a you can punch all your guys, and you can find diamonds laying around sometimes, but with two exceptions, you can't go in any of the buildings. I imagine Kaz and Revolver Ocelot have rooms somewhere. I imagine the kids are stationed somewhere. I don't know where they are.
Yeah.
Later in the game, it's not Otacon, but Emmerich. He has a little work garage that you can go in and just look at. And he works up on this platform that has no stairs or ladder leading to it. I have no idea how he got up there. He doesn't
Use
seem to
this
have
jet
rocket
boot.
doesn't seem to have rockets built into his little walker leg things, but um, what else is there? That's about it. So I found out via a friend who I was talking about Metal Gear Solid 5 with. He says, "Did you go into the medical bay, the room?" I'm like, "What?" He says, "Go to the medical platform. There is actually a door in one of the buildings there you can enter." I said, "Oh, okay." And by gum, there is actually on the medical platform a door that you can enter, unlike every single other door in the entirety of Mother Base. So I go in, and there's this half-naked woman named Paz, who is really weird, seems to have an amnesia, and this game's definition of amnesia is infantilize the person. Because she's like, "Oh, hi, Snake. do you want to show me a picture? Oh, that's a picture of a kitty. Hello, kitty, kitty, kitty. I'm like, oh God, what is going on? And if I had played Peace Walker or Ground Zeroes, I might know who the hell this person is. Because you go in there and a big cutscene starts, and they're like, it's Paz. We thought she was dead, but she's not dead. Remember back when she had a bomb sewed up in her stomach, and then we yanked it out with our bare hands, and then she fell out of a helicopter and exploded? Well, she survived somehow, and here she is in her underwear. She has amnesia, which is why she talks like a 2-year-old. So, which is how that works. So, do something about it, boss. I'm like, okay. So this is about the only thing you can do on Mother Base. There are certain side ops where you find old Mother Base soldiers, guys from back in the day. So you take them back to Mother Base. Every time you find one of those guys, you get a picture, and you can take it back and you can show Paz. And she goes, ooh, oh God, my head! Oh, the pain! And I'm thinking, am I doing any good? Because I've given her 5 pictures, and every time I give her a picture, she gets a splitting headache and has to roll over and go to sleep.
Nice.
And I'm thinking, I don't know if I'm helping this woman or not. And but at least it's something to do. And I talked to my friend. I said, there has to be some in-game indication that she's here. I just missed it, right? I mean, Kaz must have said at some point, by the way, big boss, we've got a old friend of yours in the medical bay. You should go over there and say hi when you get a chance. And I just wasn't paying attention. According to Noah, a friend of mine I was talking to, nope. You just have to stumble across that. The game teaches you there is nothing in Mother Base to actually do. And then they hide this fairly involved side quest that has a lot of production to it. And I also feel kind of weird because I walk in the room and she's wearing the briefest of brief halter tops and really little shorts. And I'm thinking, maybe I should knock before I come in here, because this poor woman is just lounging around in her underwear. I'm just like, well, I'm big boss. I'm walking in without knocking. Maybe she's patronizing me. She's like, hi, Snake. Maybe knock next time. I would have put on some clothes had you rung the damn doorbell. So
yeah.
Oh, and there's
like a game.
Yeah, for some reason, Quiet is in all of the in the next mission, and it shows a bunch of Quiet stuff. I'm like, she's dead. I don't know what to tell you. I don't think the game really expects you to kill Quiet, which is actually kind of weird because I'm not sure how I killed her in the first place, because I only ever have a tranquilizer gun with me, so I'm not sure how I managed to have a gun with real bullets. Which didn't help at the end of the game when I fought the Sahelanthropus, which is the gigantic Metal Gear Walker thing.
Yeah.
And I have my little tranquilizer gun and my tranquilizer rifle and my beanbag gun. I'm like, that's not going to do anything.
Are you sure? Maybe if you hit it in the right spot. Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So I had to find a place to hide and call my chopper. Like, yeah, could you supply drop, please? Rocket launcher. Yeah. So
that reminds me. I played a Gene Forge. They're Gene Forge 2. It's one of those old school turn-based RPGs, like Fallout. And they're at the very beginning. You're the apprentice to some stupid jerk lady, and at the very beginning of the game, I realized how big of a jerk she was, and so as soon as I had a chance, I attacked her and managed to actually one-hit kill her, because if you don't kill her in one hit, she'll kill you and the game's over. But the game just moves on and it doesn't care. She just kind of shows up when she's needed again. So it doesn't have a flag set that you actually killed this person, unfortunately. And I was kind of hoping it would, because in the first Gene Forge, you could just go through and kill everybody. It didn't care if you were in the middle of doing a quest or a mission or anything. You just kill everybody. But But yeah, and so fun. But but right now I'm playing Fallout, which I'm trying not to kill everybody. Yeah, the original, and I'm trying not to kill everybody, and so just killing who I need to kill. But it's I didn't get the chance to play it too much this week. I was playing some today, and I'm trying to find the stupid alien blaster, but I don't know if my luck's not high enough. But you just have to randomly run into this crashed alien spaceship, and so hopefully I can find it eventually, because apparently it comes in handy if you can actually get a hold of it. But otherwise, I'm doing fairly well with my sniper rifle, and so.
Yeah. Matthew was asking, didn't I drop supplies on her? If you mean quiet, yeah, that's how I beat her. At that point in the game, I didn't have a sniper rifle yet. All I had was my tranquilizer gun. So I had nothing. So I was thinking about a supply drop. I'm like, all right, I'm going to have to bring in some other weapons. And I thought, and I just dropped the supplies right on her head, and it works. And then you a cutscene where you approach her on the ground, and it's like, boss, you should kill her. No, boss, you should take her back to Mother Base and brainwash her or whatever. And I shot her because she shot my horse. And you don't mess with Big Boss's horse. So we're being asked what we thought about the Smash Direct. Did you watch it?
No, I didn't. I just checked out the news that came afterwards.
So really the only news is, Bayonetta. And by the way, to everyone who was insisting, some politely, some not, that Bayonetta was not possible and could not possibly work in Smash Brothers, neener. So Bayonetta is in, and the 37th character from Fire Emblem is in. Corrin, who, and I'm exaggerating, I think it's the 5th or 6th character from Fire Emblem. Corrin, who is the protagonist of the unreleased in the United States Fire Emblem Fates. And you might say, another Fire Emblem character, but well, there's a bunch of Mario characters. And this character is very distinct in how it works. It changes, it does like morphing and transformations and stuff in its attacks. It's like imbued with the essence of the dragon, and so when it punches, its hand morphs into a dragon head that bites and weird things like that. So that's pretty cool. And Bayonetta's in, and 6th Fire Emblem character, and Matthew says that Bayonetta is the most adult character in there. As far as exuding sexuality goes, yeah.
Well, she's running through the characters that I know in my head. I think she's the only character from an M-rated game in there.
In this version of the game, yeah.
Because I know we've had Snake
might be the only other character from an M-rated. Were any of the Metroid Prime games rated M?
No, they were all T.
Are they all teen?
Yeah.
I'm staring at my shelf looking for them. Oh, well, the ratings are not on the side of the box, so
they're all T.
But
I can't think of any other M-rated game characters in there other than Snake and Bayonetta.
Yeah. Of course, this means that Bayonetta 3 is a launch title for the NX.
Yeah.
Now, here's the question of the day. The Bayonetta apparently is the character that won the public vote for what character do you want to see in Smash. Apparently, she was the #1 choice in Europe, and she was among the top 5 of the realizable characters, I think is how they phrased it. So, who's not realizable? Goku, I guess is what they were talking about, or my mom. I don't know.
Well, probably characters that required additional licensing, or
and who cares what Japan wanted to see? So Do you actually believe, Nintendo, that Bayonetta was was the number one choice when all the votes were counted? When you factor in who you can do and who's reasonable and who's realizable, rather. I don't. I think they're full of it. I think they already had her in development, and we're just kind of hoping.
Yeah, well, and I could very well see her getting a lot of votes and stuff. I'm not familiar with what the slate of candidates were, or if there even was a slate of candidates. But
I don't even remember what I voted.
Yeah,
if I voted.
But yeah, there's just there could be thousands of characters that they had, people submitted in, and probably the vast majority of them were characters from cartoons, anime, manga, and other studios' games that they didn't have access to, like Crash Bandicoot. I don't know why anybody.
I never liked that character. Yeah. Never liked the games either. Cool for anyone who does, but just never appealed to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a hard time believing that Bayonetta. I'm very glad she made it in the game because I think she looks awesome. But I know I was also interested by how they handled some of her costuming and moves and stuff. I figured they might remove the if they went with the Bayonetta 2 outfit, they might remove the diamond cutouts on the back of her pants, or at least the highest one. But they didn't. They just kind of colored in her legs a little bit to make it look like she's wearing nylons under them, which is an interesting choice. But looking at it again, I'm not sure if that was the choice or if it's just the lower resolution of the textures on her character model that makes it look like that. I'm not really sure if they consciously darkened the color there to make it less noticeable, or if it's just the lower resolution on the costuming texture.
Could be anything.
Yeah. I also noticed that when she does some of the attacks that use her hair, and she goes, which her clothing's made of her hair, so when she uses hair attacks, her clothing dissolves away. They actually, her undersuit, if you will, covers a bit more leg than it does in the game, which is fine. Although I think they went, even for an E10 game, I think they could have gotten away with. In the original game, she's essentially wearing a one-piece bathing suit that has large cutouts in the sides and the back. It's really not the only thing risque about it, really. What's funny is what she wears under her hair would be completely appropriate, but when you're stripping her down to that, then it becomes risque. And that kind of stuff I always think is really funny.
That is funny.
So, but other than that, she seems to have been. They've kept everything about Bayonetta that makes her Bayonetta. So I'm very happy with how she looks in this game. I think it looks really cool.
Yeah, and then other than that, they did not bring Gino in, but they did give the Mii Gunners a Gino costume, which is all right. It looks kind of it looks like a costume, unfortunately, but I guess that's a consolation prize.
I do like what Nintendo's doing with providing QR codes so that you can mimic change a QR code for a specific Mii character face that looks similar to what the character that costume's for is supposed to look like. Yeah. So here's the QR code for a Gino-looking face, and here's a QR code for an Inkling-looking face if you want to use the Inkling costume. So I think it's that's pretty cool. So Nintendo's been doing a lot of cool stuff lately, which makes me which frightens the hell out of me, because that means they've got to do an equal amount of dumb stuff soon. And we don't know anything about the NX, and I'm like, oh boy. So before we move on to the poll, I want to point out that this is probably not the best haircut I've ever had. I either need to cut the top down a little bit more or the sides down a little bit less, because I think the sides are too short compared to the top. But oh well, at least it's out of
You
my.
mean you're not going for the Kramer look from Seinfeld?
Did he have a haircut like this?
Well, he was short on the side and like really tall up top. Yeah.
No, but
Yeah.
whatever. So, Matthew says, surprised they didn't add Inklings to Smash. Maybe a hardware limitation. Probably. Well, I mean, there is an Inkling costume, but yeah, I'm actually kind of surprised that no Inkling character, because Splatoon's really popular.
I don't know. Maybe it'll be in the next one, in the next Smash.
I've been wondering what they're going to do with the next Smash, because, man, you've got a roster of nearly 60 characters. Where do you go from here? It's like you have to use this as the default, or you're just going to end up disappointing people. Although there are people disappointed that there's no Snake and no Fox and things like that. But all right, let us talk about this week's poll, which let's see. So Hideo Kojima is actually not on vacation, like Konami said, but
he's not locked in a closet somewhere in in Konami headquarters.
Right. So he is now running Kojima Productions, an independent studio. But the first game is going to be a collaboration with Sony and is going to come to the PlayStation 4 and apparently be a console exclusive, but meaning that it will hit PC a little bit later. So Sony announced that Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday or sometime during the week. And I thought to myself, will this game actually be Silent Hills? I mean, probably, almost certainly not in name. But
yeah, he was not sent to the pachinko mines.
Yeah, will it be the game that Kojima and Guillermo del Toro were going to work on, just removing the Silent Hill name, branding, locations, characters, and all of that? So, will Hideo Kojima's new collaboration with PlayStation be Silent Hills? We had 251 people vote this week. 35%.
Actually pretty good for as of late.
Pretty good. 35%, which was the most popular vote, said new name, same game, and still a collaboration with Guillermo del Toro. I was actually surprised that one won. 27% said nope. 26% said it won't be called Silent Hills, but it'll be pretty much the same game. And 11% said yes, somehow the IP rights were worked out with Konami. Now, I mentioned this in the poll article that maybe Konami would want to make money and license the IP rights for Silent Hill, because this game, whether it has the Silent Hill name or not, is going to attract a lot of interest and attention. If it ends up being this game, it could be something completely different. But if it is what it was going to be, it would behoove, I'm playing armchair business person here, but I think it would behoove Konami to play ball in this case. But Konami is being Konami recently, so a couple people on my Facebook mentioned that they think this is that Silent Hills, the game, in a manner, will come back, but it's probably not going to be this first game, but it definitely will. I think most gamers think that Silent Hills may never actually be called Silent Hills, may not take place in Silent Hill or star any of the characters, but that idea, that horror game, in some form will see the light of day someday.
Maybe.
Yeah. Maybe.
Yeah, I don't. Eternal. Yeah, I really don't think that Konami would license out the IP rights to.
No, I don't think so.
Especially not to the guy that apparently they had a big fight with and left their company. It's like if they wanted to make a Silent Hills game, well, they could have just actually paid him to make one while he was still working there. But we saw with Silent Hills PT that they don't care about making money. They don't care about Silent Hills. So no reason for them to try to make money now that Kojima has left. Personally, I until I voted that it'll basically be Silent Hills. Just without the name. I don't know about Del Toro's involvement because they haven't said anything one way or the other, so I didn't feel comfortable voting for that option.
Yeah, well, Del Toro has said that he is still in touch with Kojima and that they will work and that he does really want to work with them still someday.
Yeah.
But he also said that he was done with video games, so who knows?
Yeah, he hasn't had very, very good experiences with video games in his involvement, so or anything that he's done. So, but yeah,
I think it would be a great collaboration because Kojima, in my ever so humble opinion, can't write his way out of a wet paper bag. I think he's kind of like George Lucas in that way. He's a great idea man, but his writing sucks. Mainly because he's way too self-indulgent, I think. That's not the only problem he has, but
yeah,
I think Del Toro could. I think a collaboration could be the best of both worlds. Just some really wonderful, great ideas from Kojima and some great storytelling from Del Toro.
Yeah, he's a great storyteller, great world builder, and so he could do some really great stuff. And if if he could get a good deal and have a good amount of creative control over a project, with Kojima, they could make a really great game. But we'll just have to see on that front.
Yeah, kind of reminds me of almost a reverse Dinosaur Planet, where Star Fox Adventures was essentially Dinosaur Planet, just with a brand slapped on it.
Yeah.
Or crowbarred into it, if that's how you want to describe it. That maybe this would be the opposite. It's Silent Hills, just with the Silent Hills torn out of it. So, but we will see.
We'll see.
I also expect whatever this game is to break console exclusivity and be a launch title for the NX. Everything is a launch title for the NX. So, okay, moving on, we had a new Pew Research report, which was all kinds of numbery fun.
Yes,
essentially, they call 1,000, 1,200 some odd people and interview them over the phone, crunch the numbers, and come up with interesting things like half of American adults play video games, but only 10% of them identify as gamers. So 49% of the people that they talked to said, yes, we play video games of consoles wherever, but only 10% actually identified as gamers. So that's interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. It kind of puts into perspective the small group of people who actually are throwing a big fit about games being inclusive and all that stuff. It's like, hey, you're already in the minority. Shut up.
Oh man, we gamers are the minority now. That's interesting. I don't have a problem with the word gamers. To me, it's just a word that says that indicates something I do, which is play video games. I've always been of the opinion that if you play video games, you are a gamer. That's what it means. But I mean, if the word in some cases can have a lot of baggage attached to it, so I can understand why some people wouldn't want to. A lot of people treat the word as gaming enthusiast or hardcore gamer or gaming aficionado, kind of similar to movie buff. Or audiophile or bibliophile or something that says I don't just read books, I read books.
Yeah,
So I think to some people the term gamer is, do you play video games? Yeah. Are you a gamer? Oh no, I don't play them that much or that seriously. But yeah, I play them and I like video games. So I think that's probably the perspective that a lot of that comes at. And if we're interested in
definitely.
the gender breakdown uh, of the male respondents who identified 15% of male respondents who played games identified as gamers, and 6% of female respondents who play video games identify as gamer.
Yeah, and if you're male and between 18 to 29, 33% say that they're gamers. So, yeah.
Yeah. So here's an interesting one that actually I found kind of surprising. 4 in 10 adults, so 40% believe that violence in video games is related to violent behavior. Now, this, I'm not sure what the exact question was.
Uh,
Uh, Disagree. Here's the statement: people who play violent video games are more likely to be violent themselves. So it's actually not phrasing it as. It seems to be more along the lines of violent people are attracted to violent entertainment. It seems to be what they're asking there with that question. So I guess that number is not too surprising.
well, but they have it structured in a way that seems to, a one-to-one relationship between
Hmm.
playing violent video games and being violent rather than being violent and playing violent video games.
Yeah,
Two very different statements
yeah.
because it's worded as one leads to the other,
Hmm.
and it's unfortunately that 40% of people agree with that statement. So
Well, it's interesting. I actually had someone on YouTube comments come into one of the older videos I have, 20 of the dumbest things ever said about video games. And I think like 6 or 7 of them are from Jack Thompson. But someone came in and said, video games rig your brain. I'm not even sure what that means. And then she went on to say that um, watching cooking shows can make you a better cook. And I'm like, well, no, practicing cooking will make you a better cook. Watching cooking shows could uh, give you information. It could inspire you, but it doesn't make you go into the kitchen and cook eggs. Same thing with video games. You can get ideas, you can get information, probably wrong information, but yeah. Well,
yeah.
these are old arguments. You know what I did the other day, just for a laugh? I went over to the Parents Television Council website and just read some of their stuff and had a good laugh. They
Are they
actually haven't
even around
updated.
anymore?
They don't do much, but they still have a current action items, and one of them is violent video games. But that page has not been updated since the Supreme Court ruled that video games are protected speech. So it's been
Yeah,
about 4 years since they updated anything. You think they just kind of quietly delete the page, but
you'd think. Um, but some other interesting things from this: 26% of people who responded said that most games are a waste of time, whereas 33% said some games are a waste of time, but not others. And and then 24% said that most games are not a waste of time. So that one's kind of interesting. That's a very wide and fairly even split there.
yeah.
And I would probably say that some games are a waste of time, because I like MMOs. I don't know why anybody plays them, especially not for 10 years. That seems to be a long time. But yeah, let's see. Help develop good problem skills. 47% of people said that's true for some games, and 17% said that's true for most games. So
Mhm.
that one's a good one.
I think trying to find it, but I think the most obvious thing was compared with those who do not play video games, game players are more likely to agree with the positives and disagree with the negatives associated
Yeah,
with games. Well, yeah, gamers, as in people who play video games, are more likely to see the positives, mainly because we play them and we know what we're talking about. If you
yeah,
don't play video games, you don't play video games. So a lot of the times you're just not going to know what you're talking about.
True. Pew also asked about the portrayal of women and minorities in video games. And they asked, if you think that video games portray women and minorities poorly. And let's see, 14% said that most games portray women poorly, and 27% said that some games portray women poorly. And then 18% said that most games do not portray women poorly, or I don't know how you would phrase that otherwise, and then 40% were just kind of unsure.
That's the most interesting number to me, is that
Yeah.
when you ask a bunch of gamers, I'm not sure if this is just the gamers or everyone they ask.
I think this was just everyone. I don't.
Okay.
They don't break this one down by gamers versus non-gamers.
Well, if this is everybody, then that makes a bit more sense. I'm guessing that 40%, the people who answered unsure were mostly the people who don't play video games.
Probably, yeah. And
like, I have no idea how women or minorities are represented in games. I don't play them.
Yeah, and for minorities, the percentages were smaller for each of them. Well, except for, or 9% said most games portray minorities poorly. 20% said some games do. 23% said that most games do not portray them poorly, and then 47% were unsure. So again, we're seeing those non-gamers just like, hey, I don't know. Candy Crush doesn't seem to portray any minorities or women. I don't. That's the only game I know. But yeah. But yeah, so that one's interesting, and that's one that we have a lot of discussions about portrayals of women and stuff in the Game Politics Shout box, and so that one's an interesting statistic to kind of stick in your hat for later usage. But
well, yeah, the Pew Research, any of these types of research polls are not something that you throw. It's like these are not numbers you use to win an argument, unless the argument is what the numbers were. These are just interesting. It's kind of like Metacritic and score aggregate sites like that. Rotten Tomatoes is another one. It just gives you kind of an idea of what a bunch of people tend to think, but usually not good for solid facts or argument.
No, not at all. But yeah, it's still an interesting thing to discuss and bring up if you have a larger point that requires the use of it.
So let us move on and talk about a couple of our Republican presidential candidates who released some videos that I didn't watch, but I read a couple quotes from regarding net neutrality. And last week, we made fun of the previous FCC commissioner who made some really, really silly comments about net neutrality, such that I was wondering if he even understood what net neutrality or the internet actually was and how it worked. So
he's the FCC commissioner. That's not a job requirement.
Well, he's not the FCC commissioner anymore, so maybe he forgot. I mean, I'm not in school anymore, so I've forgotten all my maths. Anyway, so here's a quote from Rand Paul. Says, I'd like to get the government out of the internet completely. I'm absolutely opposed to having the internet considered a utility. I would undo every bit of it that's done through executive order, and I would keep the government's tentacles and overreach out of the internet. So I guess that means absolutely zero municipal broadband now, if Rand Paul is...
Well, and he's also going to shut down WhiteHouse.gov and
all the
Thomas.gov and Pacer, all that. He's going to shut down those things because that's the government in the internet there.
Yeah, get the government out of the internet. We're going to have to take down the Wikipedia page. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
this one I don't understand his complaint. You know, he doesn't explain what is wrong with net neutrality. All he does is say that it's government in the internet. It's like,
Mhm.
okay, what exactly is the government doing? You know, why is the government in there bad? You know, that's what he's not answering here.
Well, at least not in that
And
quote. I haven't seen the full video, so
yeah, well,
maybe he goes into it there, but
I don't know. Maybe I didn't watch the
yeah,
video
I
either,
didn't
but
have time. But here's a
um,
quote from someone whose name I can't ever remember how to
Carly
pronounce.
Fiorina.
Fiorina, I still can't get it. She says the net neutrality rules promulgated by this administration, along with the big business that stand to benefit, are as good an example of crony capitalism as any. Major companies such as Google, Facebook, Amazon, eBay, and Netflix now have a government-conferred advantage over startups because they can afford the lobbyists and lawyers necessary to navigate the new Title II landscape. When influence trumps innovation, big entrenched companies benefit. And I have to wonder if this person whose name I can never pronounce correctly,
Fiorina, yeah.
thank you, uh, she seems to have net neutrality and its effects completely backwards.
Yeah, she does. She's taken and just flipped it on its head, because you know the problem is without net neutrality, startups do not have an advantage.
Right.
Yeah, because these companies can work out private deals with Cox and Comcast and stuff because they're big enough to do that. But Joe Blow's startup online store does not have the same pull and cannot get the same kind of treatment as Amazon would. You know, same thing for a startup video or music service. You know, the, I don't know where she's coming from with this, because crony capitalism, ugh, crony capitalism is what we have right now, even with net neutrality, and it's not crony capitalism involving Google and Facebook, etc. It's crony capitalism involving Comcast and AT&T and Verizon and Cox and you know, all these other telecommunications companies. Yeah, they're the ones who have all the laws that benefit them to prevent competition from you know, startup competition from coming into your local town. uh,
You
you know, it
think
takes
she
a
and
company like Google to be able to break the broadband monopoly. You know,
you think
it's
she and Rand, their campaigns have received contributions from any of the telecoms?
most likely, yes.
I haven't looked, but I wouldn't be
Yeah.
surprised if that were the
I wouldn't be
case.
surprised if it were the case, and after this, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if those contributions will go up. Um, yeah, but right now, I don't. You know, because both of them have fairly small poll representation, they probably don't have as much donations coming in as some of the bigger players like um, Cruz and Trump and etc. But they're definitely on the track to get some sweet telco money coming in. But uh,
Baby needs a
but
new
yeah,
pair of shoes.
but net neutrality is about making sure that Google, Facebook, Amazon, Netflix do not have power to over startup companies, and yeah, Fiorina is just kind of stupid in framing it the way she did, and Rand Paul just, you know, has no substance whatsoever in his comments. So,
Matthew, your typos are the best.
and
Ideology. Pretty sure
and
that's ideology, but ideology.
but Rand Paul is not a capital L libertarian. He has a lot of libertarian ideals and leanings, but he's still very much a Republican when it comes to economic issues and especially social issues. He is not for ending the drug war, as an example. Uh, and that's one of the Libertarian Party's key positions,
Is
is
he
to end the
interested
drug
in
war.
ending the war on Christmas?
I don't know. I haven't seen anything he said about the war on Christmas, but we'll know if we ever see him patroning a Starbucks.
Because their holiday cups are not festive
They don't
enough.
have snowflakes on them.
I try not to be mean when I tease, but I don't get the whole war on Christmas thing.
There is no war on
I don't know
Christmas.
what they're talking about. So
Yeah.
anyway, all right. Last topic. This what a way to go out of the year with. Extra credits reported on a game called Sesame Credit, which is a game in China, which is the most frightening damn thing I have ever heard about.
Well, it's not really a game. It's a gamification of your life, essentially.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's like it's like our credit score, only for
Yeah,
patriotism, and it has
exactly.
real world consequences. Such that there's this game where um, the game browses how you interact with people and what you do on social media to assign you a patriotism, so to speak, numerical score. So the more you toe the party line, the higher your score is. But the more radical ideas you share on the Facebooks and the Twitters, and the more aggressive and critical political cartoons you share, down goes your score. Now, the higher score you have could lead to benefits such as getting through government red tape to get
Like,
passport stuff so you can
yeah,
travel,
business
or
licenses,
shorten
yeah,
the
that
line at
kind
the
of stuff.
DMV, maybe. Um, but also, there may be at some point penalties for having a lower score, like restricting you from certain jobs. Um, and another thing that it does is it uh, encourages you to check your friend's patriotism score, whatever it's officially called, and maybe distance yourself from the lower scoring friends, because they're just going to drag your score down.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
is something that you read in dystopian science fiction, man. I hope James Portnow said this, and I agree with him. I hope he's just totally reading something wrong here, because
no,
that is
hopefully it is.
scary.
That is some scary stuff, and there's really nothing you could say that would spin this in a positive way, because it's just that insane. You know, you mentioned that this is similar to our credit score,
Hmm.
and really, you know, um, I've watched some Dave Ramsey stuff, and he frames the credit score in a very interesting way. He doesn't call it your credit score. He calls it "I love debt score," because the way to build your credit is to get yourself into debt. And the more you get yourself into debt and the better you manage your debt, the more you can get yourself into debt. And that's the
Yeah.
whole point of the credit score. And this is just kind of crazy in that it's you basically have to lick the boot of government in order to get a good score.
Yeah. Trilink
And
says this sounds like a really bad form of social control. That is exactly what it is. But
exactly what it is.
it's
Yeah.
social control via positive reinforcement. So
Yeah.
it's like, look, if you toe the party line and fall into line like good little sheeple, and then you look at all the great things that you get. You get all these benefits. We're going to have to take this benefit from you because you're associating with friends who share political cartoons that we don't like. So, you know, so
Yeah.
that will that instead of doing I don't know, dragging people into camps or sending people with machine guns to shoot things, you're starting to get the public to ostracize the any radical or anti-party ideas by
Yeah,
themselves, and want to do that for their own benefit. And as Matthew reminds us, yeah, apparently this thing is in a soft launch right now, but will be mandatory within 5 years.
yeah. And that's where it's going to get really scary, because once it becomes mandatory, you're going to have a lot of people who are going to wake up one day and find out that they have a low score, just, because that's how they live their life, and they're not going to have access to anything when they try to do anything involving the government. And so at 2020, you're going to have this uh, class divide, essentially, of people with good scores and people without good scores. And really, I don't know if we got any, we're going to get any more details or anything, but just based on how we understand it from extra credits, is that there's really not a way to build yourself back up if your score goes down too low, because you're not going to have any friends that are a positive influence.
That can
You're not going to.
right. That's
Yeah, you're
that's
not
the
going
other
to
thing,
have
is
any other
associating with people
things.
with high scores will help bring you up too.
Yeah, but the high score people are not going to want to associate with you
That's
if you
right.
have too low of a score. And but the other problem with this is it's being developed in collaboration with Tencent. For those of you out there who don't know, or maybe you're familiar with Tencent, they just recently bought Riot Games, the developers of League of Legends. And they also own Alibaba, which is the major search engine in China, and they also controlled the largest social network sites in China, the largest online shopping shops in China, and they're basically China's version of Google with Facebook and Twitter and Amazon all combined into one. That's what they are. And
Matthew points out they also own a large share of Epic, and if I'm remembering correctly, I think Activision Blizzard too.
yeah, they have their fingers in a lot of game companies,
Yeah.
but
So it's not
but
just also it's not just things you do on social media, but as Zachary mentioned, it's things you buy. So if you're
yeah,
buying things that help the economy and are good for China, then yay. But if you're
or if
importing
you
a bunch of
buy
video games,
yeah, or you buy a backpack and a pressure cooker.
yeah,
But yeah, what you buy is going to impact how your score, what you say on social media, even eventually what you do in real life could have an impact. Like if you go to a business that's owned by someone with a high score, that could positively impact your score. If you go to a business that's owned by someone with a low score, that could negatively impact your score.
wow,
We
yeah.
don't know, but that's just kind of something that I could see happening eventually.
Makes you wonder if
So
private businesses would have issues running their businesses if their patriotism score or whatever it is was low. Like they'd
yeah,
be blacklisted, people would stop shopping there, or it's like,
I don't know.
oh, we better not go shop at Eddie's liquor store because Eddie has a low score, and they'll know that I've been one buying liquor and two buying liquor from Eddie. So
Yeah, I could see it. I don't. Have you ever seen the movie Gattaca?
I know. Heard of
No.
it.
Okay.
I
Well,
know which movie that is, but
yeah. For those of you who have not seen Gattaca, it's a movie that takes place in the future where we have basically hacked the human genome and can create designer babies.
woo.
Yeah, so you can basically create a baby that's the perfect stats that you want, has no genetic diseases. You can eliminate um, diseases that are come from genes like certain cancers and stuff like that.
Sleeps
Um,
22 hours a day, does not cry. Yeah.
yeah, and so eventually, so many designer babies have been made that basically the economy is molds itself around this idea, so that certain businesses are like, you have to be a designer baby if you want to work here. You can't be a regular baby if you want to work here. Or you can only have certain jobs if you're a regular baby. And so I could see something like this turning into a Gattaca style world, and
necessities are only affordable to those with good patriotism scores.
Yeah. So very scary stuff. So
yeah. That's nightmarish. That is. So hopefully James Portnow just read it wrong or is misunderstanding something, because wow.
But so this is the kind of stuff that you really can't put. You really can't. Or you can actually see China doing. So you can't put it past China to do something like this. That's what I was trying to say earlier. So, but yeah.
Well, I know what we could do. We could ransom Transformers 5 and say, China, if you don't get rid of this Sesame Credit thing, we won't release Transformers 5 over there. Nope.
Yeah.
We won't put one of your popular actors in it in a scene that makes no sense and has nothing to do with the movie.
Yeah.
So Merry Christmas, everybody, and all the other awesome holidays of the month, because holy biscuits, there's a lot of cool holidays in December. Actually, the falls are great because you have Halloween in October, you have Thanksgiving in November, and then you have Christmas in December, along with Hanukkah, which is 8 times the fun. And I still have no idea what Kwanzaa. One of these days, I'm actually going to look up what the hell that is, because it's probably something cool I'm missing out on. And I hate missing out on stuff. Zachary, are you still there? Zachary?
Hello. I'm
there
back.
You are.
Yeah, my internet connection hiccup there. Yeah.
I was talking about cool holidays like Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah, which I can't remember what exactly they are. I've heard of them. All I know is we have at work, we've got folks we've got a headquarters in Toronto, and they have like 1 million holidays every year. And it's like, oh, it's Victoria Day. And I'm like, what? What is that? And they're like, I don't know, but we don't have work. Oh, it's our Thanksgiving. I'm like, what? You don't get your Thanksgiving and our Thanksgiving? How is that fair?
Yeah. But, I remember England had what they called bank holidays, which was basically one Monday a month. They was an official holiday. Kind of. The U.S. is almost to that point where there's one holiday each month. I think. See, August and June, I think, are the only. Well, yeah, August and June don't have official holidays. October has Columbus Day.
There's a good day. We should get rid of Columbus Day. Columbus was.
Yes, we should. Indigenous Peoples Day,
or
replace it with that Viking. What was the Viking's name?
Leif Erikson.
Leif Erikson Day. Yeah, replace it with Leif Erikson Day. Because at least he didn't, raid the lands and enslave the people.
Yeah, I mean, I've always never understood why Columbus is romanticized to the extent that he is.
Yeah,
I mean, they almost Santa Claus the guy, Yeah, especially in grade school. It's so weird. Anyway, so next week, so no Super Podcast Action Committee next Saturday. We'll be doing the family thing. My mom and her husband are coming out here, and we're gonna go see Star Wars. And
awesome.
Tim's gonna go see Spotlight. Mom and I are gonna go see Star Wars. I'm
Okay.
actually kind of like, you know what? I might want to go see Spotlight too, but no, I'll go see Star Wars. I'm hoping that Star Wars will rekindle the love of Star Wars in me because it's my Star Wars fanboyness was forcibly beat out of me um, over a period of many years in the early 2000s. So I find myself not caring at all and having absolutely zero excitement for Star Wars. But hopefully, the reviews are good, so hopefully it's good.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, hopefully. I don't know when I'm going to get the chance to see it, but I would like to see it sometime soon. But it would be nice to go as a family. Watch watch episodes 1 through 6, probably 3 through 7, and then or 4 through 7, and then 4 through 6, and then 1 through 3, and then go see 7 in the theaters. But yeah.
Let's see. I'm still posting the Extra Life footage from the Extra Life marathon. Almost done with that. I think I've only 2 or 3 more videos to go, so that's almost done. So not my most popular videos, but I know there's several dozen people, and that's it, who want to watch them, and that's for you guys. As far as I have some interesting ideas for videos for my YouTube channel next year. Uh, uh, as I mentioned, Mom and her husband will be out here, which means I won't see my sister this holiday break. So no Andrew and Kelly videos for the foreseeable future. But I am planning a. I have an idea of something that she and I can do together over Skype or something. So hopefully that will work and be fun and entertaining to watch. Also have a I did the 30 days of Netflix, 13 days of horror. I have a X days of Y that I will be doing later in the year. So looking
Yeah.
forward.
One of
And
these days you'll have to do a 12 days of Christmas.
I thought of doing a 12 days of Christmas, but with the Metal Gear Solid 5 project I'm doing, I can't. I really couldn't spare the time.
Yeah.
And for those wondering, I'm fixing and optimizing IGN's Metal Gear Solid 5 guide. Um, I thought of 12 Days of Christmas, and the obvious thing to do for that is to watch Christmas movies, a new Christmas movie every day. And I looked at the selection on Netflix, and I went, "Oh God, I do not want to watch any of those. I don't want to watch an Airbuds Christmas." Um, on the other hand, what I have planned for my X Days of Y next year is probably something that I really don't want to watch. It's one of those things where I hope it's funny because this is probably going to be really painful to sit through. This is going to be really boring for me, I think. So hopefully it's funny. Anyway, let's plug our stuff and get out of here. Andrew Eisen here. Eisen is how you spell the last name. Plug it into YouTube. You'll find my YouTube videos like 20 of the dumbest things ever said about video games. And at the time I did that list, I thought I'll just keep doing sequels. But, no one really says that much truly dumb about video games these days.
Well,
Fox
apparently you
News
don't
doesn't
follow
talk
the
about.
Gamergate crowd.
Well, I mean the good old stuff, like
Yeah, I
playing
know.
video games pops up a cranial menu that it's like, what? You don't get,
Yeah.
no one shoots anyone in the face except a hitman or a gamer. Now, these gamers have 800 hours of unique footage that parents have to paw through to figure out if they're appropriate for their children. What? What? I mean,
Yeah.
you could play Minecraft for 800 hours, but you really don't need to determine its suitability for your children. Come on, come on. Anyway,
Yeah.
that was Leland Yee, who is in jail now. So, is he actually in prison?
I think he is now, unless sentencing hasn't happened. I believe he's
Don't remember.
been charged, or I believe the jury has reached a verdict.
Yeah, he's definitely out of a job. I forget now.
Yeah.
Anyway, Twitter at Andrew Eisen. Andrew Eisen Facebook. No, I'm sorry. Andrew Eisen YouTube is the Facebook page. And yeah, that's all the stuff. So Zachary, plug away.
All right, you can follow me on Twitter at Easy Knight, and you can check out my game development work. It's DK_gaming on Twitter and DivineKnightGaming.com. You can follow the Oklahoma game development scene at OKGameDevs on Twitter and OKGameDev.com. And for other interesting video game related stuff, you can check out Random Tower and RandomTower.com and RustyOutlook.com. There we go.
All right, that is it for us. Another reminder that next week we are off and we'll be back on January 2nd. So have an excellent Christmas, everyone, and we will see you in the new year. But before we go, you're watching Super Podcast Action Committee. Send us email at superpackpodcast@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at superpackpodcast, and subscribe, rate us on iTunes when we ever get back on iTunes, and like us on Facebook. There we go. That's that spiel out of the way. So, Merry Christmas, and we will see you next year. Bye-bye.
Merry Christmas. Bye.